Hey, everybody, it's Bubba Hutchison, Coastal Virginia Realtor with Howard Hanna. I hope you're doing great. Thank you so much for checking us out today. This is the first in a classroom series that we're going to be holding on my site and on YouTube, all about anything involving real estate, buying, selling, what have you. We're going to start it out, though, with a brief little class on loans and pre-approvals and what goes into being pre-approved, because 99% of Americans, when they go to purchase a home, aren't using cash. They're going to be using a bank's money or a lender's money to try to get a mortgage to buy a home. And a lot of folks don't realize that before they even start looking, they need to get pre-approved. I work with buyers every day that come to me and they want to start looking at homes, but they haven't even gone down the road of speaking with a lender to realize and find out what they could be lent, what that number means on a monthly budget. So you got to start with the pre-approval process. And so how I normally do that is I introduce them right away to someone like Ben Munson here. Ben is a longtime friend of mine and a great lender with Tidewater Mortgage Services, based out of Southeast Virginia. And Ben's going to walk us through everything that goes into the pre-approval process, because there's really nothing to be afraid of. It's very quick, but it's great to know what you need to have so he can get it done as quick as possible. So Ben, thanks for joining me, man. Tell me and everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, awesome, Bubba. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, I'm a lender with Tidewater Mortgage. And I mean, ever since I can remember, I've always loved math and numbers. And I can remember being 12 or 13, reading investment books. And I just have a love for the art of a deal, or the numbers of a deal, let's say. I just love helping people. And so I've been a lender for, I would say, 17 years. Started out just doing, car loans, personal loans, things like that, and moved to Tidewater Mortgage about 6 years ago and started doing home loans. So I've now got
you've got a big audacious goal.
Yeah.
Even though you've been super successful doing this, but you want to do what? How many?
I want to help 1,000 homeowners in 10 years is my goal. And I'm 6 years in and I'm a little shy of 550. So, I think I'm still on track. I could catch back up here.
Well, as you're in it longer, things tend to snowball more and more and more, and
Exactly.
You get more clients, but you are just a tremendous asset to every client who ever uses you. And I always love having someone who loves numbers be my loan officer. And so Ben is, I'm glad to hear you love them so much and you were reading books so early. But I was just speaking to someone last week who said, hey, I want to go look at this house. I think we're kind of ready to buy. I think we've improved our position. We've been working on our credit score. We got a raise at work, but I don't even know where to start. And I say, well, the first thing we do is we get you with a lender, because you're not going to know where to start till they tell you where you're able to start. And then you really contour it to what you're comfortable with based on what they tell you, and you figure out a real good price range that's going to work for your budget. So when I turn someone over to you, Ben, and they call you about getting pre-approved, how does that process work?
Yeah. So, look, nobody wants to get a mortgage. So I try to make the process really easy and painless. But, it's as simple as gathering some information, getting documents, and figuring out, your maximum pre-approval amount. People want to know, how much can I get approved for? They also want to know, how much is my payment going to be at different purchase prices? If I shop in this price range, how much is my payment going to be? Because that's honestly the most important thing, is to make sure your payment is affordable.
Yes.
So, that's probably the most important thing of a pre-approval, is just to understand the numbers. From a realtor's perspective, as a listing agent, I'm sure you want to see a pre-approval letter. You don't want to see a pre-qualification letter. And let me explain the difference between those two, because there's a lot of confusion on the terms. So pre-qualification is just going online, filling out a few pieces of information, and the lender says, oh yeah, we think you could afford that. You didn't provide any documents, they didn't pull your credit, that kind of thing. A pre-approval is the opposite. They're gonna dig in. They're gonna get the documentation. They're going to get all the credit pulled, and they're going to get the approval, whether that's through the automated system or an underwriter. But that's a solid pre-approval where there's a very high likelihood that that deal is going to close. So that's what a seller is looking for, is a pre-approval letter. And that's what my company helps with.
Not only a seller, but I mean, even people that are regular agents like myself, who, even if they're not helping the seller, they're helping a buyer. And a lot of people in my position won't even work with a buyer who doesn't have a pre-approval yet. So it's step one. If you're serious about buying a house, you got to get pre-approved.
And there's a lot, there's a lot that goes into a pre-approval. And I think, let me share my screen here. I think it's best to share a visual. The old proverbial three-legged stool analogy here, but it really does hold true. And the three-legged stool analogy is if one of the legs is weak and the other two are strong, the stool can still stand up. But if one leg is broken, the stool is going to fall over. So the three legs of this three-legged stool here are income, assets, and credit. All right. And by income, this is more specifically your debt to income ratio. So how affordable is the house for you? And everybody's heard debt to income ratio. What that means is we take all of your debts, add them up, including the new mortgage payment, your debt payments. We add all of those up and we divide that into your monthly income. And that tells us what percentage of your money every month goes to servicing your debt. And that's what the debt to income ratio is. And most lenders look for 50 or 55% maximum debt to income ratio.
Okay.
So I'm going to go skip to the third leg of the stool, which is credit. Everybody knows about your FICO score. We look at that score. We look at, have you paid are there any late payments? Have you had a mortgage foreclosed on, or is there a bankruptcy? So the credit's a very, very important piece, and one that people have a lot of questions on, and something I know a lot about and I can help with.
I've had people, just real quick on the credit score, come to me and say, hey, I have a 680 credit score. I know I'm not going to get a loan at that. What should I do?
I'd say,
and I'm like, no, that's just not.
That's better than, like, you're probably in the 50 or 60th percentile. I mean, you're not at the bottom half of it. So that's actually a decent score. And the minimum credit score for a lot of lenders, now every lender's different. My company's minimum score is 620.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
I've had some people that I can work with and get them from a 580 to a 620, 640, and then they can buy a house. So it doesn't matter what your score is. You need to learn what to do if you want to buy a house. And
that's one thing I was speaking to a client of mine about, because they said, hey, we've been working on it. We don't think we're ready. We've been working on our credit scores and our earnings, and I'm not sure what to do. And I said, well, let's get you with a lender, because they'll tell you, based on what you're earning and what your current credit score is, what you need to fix to be able to be lendable at whatever amount they say it is. And you'll be so surprised how quick it takes to fix credit scores, the quick amount of time. It's not long. So that's great to know.
Absolutely. And the third leg of the stool here is assets. And more specifically, this is your down payment, or how much money you have in the bank in reserves or in savings. So assets is an important piece, but it is also the hardest one of these three. A lot of times for a first-time home buyer especially, they've got the job, they've got the credit, they just don't have the savings saved up. And that's where some down payment assistance, or maybe getting a gift from a family, can come in handy. And I know we'll get into that later in the series too. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's just a reflection of society at large, because I think there's a crazy a number, like 98% of Americans have less than $500 in their savings. So this is something that you look for. You got to save up, or have things that are, say, like retirement accounts that you can draw against, things like that. There's all kinds of ways to pull assets, which a lender like Ben can talk to you about.
Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is every situation is different, Bubba, and no two people are exactly the same. And you've got to have a professional looking at it, not just some AI or a computer doing your pre-approval. So, whether you use my company or somebody else, make sure it's a professional and you're working with a person.
Right. And I'll tell you, it sounds like there's a lot that goes into it, because you're having to look up some credit scores and debt to income ratios and stuff. But I've always been extremely surprised by how quick this process is, and painless for the person that's going through the pre-approval process. I mean, I have clients that are pre-approved within 20 minutes of talking to a lender on the phone.
Exactly.
So this is not a huge commitment of time or energy. You just get with Ben. he can make it happen. And you just don't know what you don't know. So you can't sit there and seriously talk about wanting to buy a house until you talk with the lender to know what you're going to be pre-approved for, know what those payments are. Long story short, if you're even having a small dream about buying a house, let me connect you with Ben right away. And then we'll be able to get, if it's not tomorrow, we'll put together a 6-month plan, a year plan to make sure you can buy in that time frame. So Ben, super helpful. Thanks for all the knowledge.
Thank you.
We're going to come back with some more stuff involving all types of loans that are available to you, but this is our first and what will be many. Thanks so much for checking it out. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. BubbaHutchison.com. You can reach me at 757-880-2945 is my number. Ben, how can someone reach you?
Sure. My number is 757-869-2683. Call or text.
Perfect. All right. Everybody take care. Thank you.